The Girl Who Remembered Too Much. Genre: psychological thriller, mystery. A 21-year-old crash survivor begins dreaming from the killer's perspective, seeing things she shouldn't, remembering things she never lived. As the line between memory and guilt starts to blur, she's forced to question: is someone manipulating her mind, or has she always known the truth? If you love psychological thrillers that mess with your memory, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that won't let you sleep.
My name is Lucy Carter. I'm 21 years old, and I survived a car crash that killed 3 people. That's the version of me everyone knows, the one they whisper about when they think I'm not listening. The girl who walked away, the one with no memory. They think I'm lucky, but I don't feel lucky. I feel like I left something behind in that car, something important, something I was never supposed to forget. And lately, I think it's trying to come back. The crash happened 3 months ago. Rain-slick road, just past midnight, one curve too fast. Ben was driving, Sasha was in the passenger seat. There was a 4th person in the back, someone I didn't recognize. I was found on the shoulder, 30 feet from the wreckage, half conscious, bleeding, not supposed to be there. I was the only one who lived. The EMTs said I was in shock. The doctors said memory loss was common after trauma. The police said it was an accident and no one was at fault. Everyone had an answer, except me. I live with my aunt now, in a little rented house on the edge of town, all peeling paint and quiet evenings. I dropped out of school after the crash. Couldn't focus, couldn't sit in class without feeling like I'd forgotten something important on purpose. I don't go out much. Sometimes I dream about it. Not the crash, just the way the air must have smelled that night. Pine and rain and rubber birthing on asphalt. But a week ago, something changed. I had a dream, a real one, sharp, detailed. In it, I wasn't in the car. I was watching it from the trees. And then I was inside it, driving, except I wasn't me. I woke up with my hands clenched like they were still gripping a steering wheel. My whole body tensed like I'd just hit something. And my mouth was smiling. I couldn't explain it. The time on the clock? 2:17 a.m., the exact time the crash occurred. The next day, I found something strange in my old notebook, the one I'd carried with me everywhere before the crash. On the last page, written in my handwriting, but shakier, unfamiliar, were 6 words. You weren't even supposed to be there. And just under that, a phone notification lit up on my screen. Voicemail. No number. No contact. No one should have had this number. But the label said, "Play me." I stared at the notification for a long time. One voicemail. No number, no timestamp, just "play me." I didn't recognize the icon. It wasn't my usual voicemail screen. It looked older, like something from an outdated app. I tried to screenshot it. The screen glitched, froze. When it unfroze, the app had closed, but the voicemail was still there. Play me. My thumb hovered over the button. Don't be dramatic, I told myself. People get weird tech glitches all the time. But I was already shaking. Not because I was scared of hearing something, because I was scared I already knew what I'd hear. I hit play. The voice came through distorted, low, warped by static, like it had been dragged through water and broken speakers. But it was still clear enough to recognize. Ben. His voice. Don't think she sees us. Just keep driving. The hairs on my arms rose. Then a second voice, tense, breathless. She's following us, Ben. I told you. Sasha. I hadn't heard her voice since the funeral, not even in dreams. The audio warped again. A sharp screech. Brakes? Metal? Then something I couldn't identify. A wet crunch. Followed by silence. Except for one final sentence. Whispered. She wasn't supposed to be here. Click. The message ended. I sat on the floor, phone on my lap, heart pounding in my throat. I wanted to call someone, my aunt, the police, anyone. But what would I say? Hey, I just got a ghost voicemail from my dead ex-boyfriend who thinks I'm stalking him? No. They'd tell me it was stress, trauma, residual guilt. I opened my phone's call log. No record. Voicemail? Gone. Just the regular screen again. That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed on the couch with the lights on, watching the rain run down the windows. Around 2:30, I heard footsteps outside. Light, uneven, like someone dragging a boot. I got up, peeked through the blinds. Nothing. But when I turned around, something had changed. My notebook. The one on the kitchen counter. It was open. New handwriting. Not mine. Not like before. Just one line. What if you weren't the victim? I spent the next morning trying to convince myself I imagined it. The voicemail, the footsteps, the writing. My aunt left early for work, and I sat in the kitchen, staring at the notebook, daring it to change again. I even left the room, came back 10 minutes later. Still, just that one line. What if you weren't the victim? It stared at me like a bruise. By 10 a.m., I'd convinced myself it was a prank, or sleepwalking, or grief. So I did something I hadn't done since the accident. I opened the internet and searched their names. Ben Rivers, Sasha Hayes. Their obituaries came up first. Young, full of promise. Everyone used that word, promise, as if dying froze them at their best selves. The articles about the crash were brief. All of them mentioned 3 fatalities, but none of them listed the 4th person's name. No photos, no bio, not even initials. Like they'd never existed. That's when I found a post on an old student forum, dated the night after the crash. Can't believe Theo's dead. None of the papers even mention him. Classic. Theo. I clicked the profile, inactive, but another user replied, he wasn't even in the group. Why was he there? I heard Lucy invited him. My stomach twisted. I didn't know a Theo. At least, I didn't think I did. I called Jared. He didn't answer, which was typical. We hadn't talked since the crash. He'd been closer to Ben than to me, and when everything fell apart, we both quietly agreed to stay out of each other's way. But this felt bigger than pride. So I texted him, "Did you know someone named Theo?" I didn't expect a reply, but 20 minutes later, he sent back, "Theo Vargas. He was in Ben's psych elective. Why? Did you know he was in the car?" Another pause. Then, "No, I didn't. They didn't tell us that." That night, I had the second dream. I was in the back seat this time. Not me, not Lucy, someone else. I looked at my hands. Bigger. Rings I didn't recognize. A cracked thumbnail. Ben was driving. Sasha was turned around, arguing. "Why did you bring her? You said we were done with that." Ben didn't answer. In the rearview mirror, I saw her. Me, Lucy, walking down the side of the road in the rain. just staring at the car. Ben muttered under his breath. She wasn't even supposed to be there. I woke gasping. 2:17 a.m. Again. This time, I didn't reach for the light. I reached for the notebook and found a new sentence written across the bottom of the page. He dreamed about you too. The university was a mistake. I knew it before I stepped onto campus. Even after dropping out, I still had my old ID. It worked on the front gate scanner. The buildings looked smaller than I remembered, and the rain didn't help. It always rained here, even when the forecast said it wouldn't. I went to the humanities building first, the one where Ben used to have his psychology elective. The room was dark and locked. I stood there for a moment, heart pounding, then tried the office next door. A secretary looked up at me with wary politeness. "Can I help you?" "I'm trying to find some information on a student, Theo Vargas. He was in Professor Layton's class last semester." She hesitated. "You're not family?" I shook my head. "No, but I was in the crash." That worked better than I thought. Something flickered in her expression. Pity, curiosity, something else I couldn't name. She typed something into her computer, then leaned back. "Theo wasn't registered under a major, but he was auditing a couple courses, psychology and literature. No declared home department, so no advisor on file. Was he living on campus? I'm not supposed to share that." Then she sighed, stood, and walked away, returning a minute later with a sticky note. She slid it across the desk. "You didn't get this from me. Dorm 9B, Calder Hall." The dorm hadn't been emptied yet. Most students were off for the winter term, but Calder Hall was still partially active. The doors buzzed open with the right student ID. I walked the hall like I belonged there. 9B was on the corner. The nameplate still read, T. Vargas. Faded, unchanged. I knocked. No answer. Tried the handle. Unlocked. The room was small, neat, bunk bed. One side untouched, the other still lived in. Clothes folded, books on the shelf, a journal on the desk. I shut the door and stepped inside. The smell hit me first. Faint cologne, dust, something sharper under it, metallic. The desk drawers were locked, but the journal wasn't. I flipped it open. Pages and pages of scrawl. Not essays, not reflections, dreams. Every page dated, labeled. November 13, Black Road. She's in the rear view again, smiling, still bleeding. November 19, she whispered my name. I don't think she has a mouth. December 2nd, I wasn't supposed to be there. Neither was she. My fingers trembled. On the last page, in block letters, was one line. "If she ever comes here, don't let her leave." I backed away. The door clicked shut behind me. I turned fast, but no one was there. Just the sound of the lock sliding into place. And something new on the desk screen. The laptop was on now. A blank document open. The cursor blinking. Then a single word typed itself onto the page. Lucy. I didn't scream. I wanted to. Every hair on my body stood up like they were trying to run before I could. But I didn't. I froze. Then I moved. The window was small, locked tight, 3rd floor, no fire escape. The laptop screen was still open. Lucy. Just my name. The cursor blinked once, then again. And then it started typing, slowly, like the fingers weren't used to keyboards. You looked different in the woods. I slammed the lid shut. The lights overhead flickered. I didn't care about being quiet anymore. I grabbed the doorknob, twisted hard. It turned, and I threw the door open so fast it bounced off the opposite wall. The hallway was empty. I ran. I didn't stop until I was outside. Wet air, trees swaying. I kept walking, fast, back to the bus stop by the administration building. A few students passed by. No one looked twice. The cold steadied me. The sky was the same low gray it had been all week. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a number I didn't recognize. I let it ring. It went to voicemail. But when I opened the screen, there was no new message, just a transcription preview. "You're still dreaming, Lucy. You haven't woken up yet." That night, I didn't go home. I sat in a library until they closed, then in an all-night diner with coffee I couldn't drink. My notebook was in my lap, unopened. I finally flipped it open around 3 a.m. The page was blank. Until it wasn't. Words scrawled themselves across the top in ink I didn't touch. "He saw you first, but I remember better." I tore the page out, crushed it, threw it in the trash. But underneath, on the next page, something was already written there too. "You keep forgetting which one of us is real." I snapped the notebook shut. The next morning, Jared called me. His voice was low, tired. "Did you look him up?" "Yeah," I said. "I went to his dorm." "Then you should know. There's something off about the autopsy." My blood froze. "What do you mean?" He hesitated. "Theo didn't die in the car." "What?" "He died before the impact, hours before. The coroner says it was strangulation." Silence. "But no one told you that, right?" "No," I whispered. "No one told me that." Jared exhaled. "Then you'd better ask yourself one question, Lucy. If he wasn't killed in the crash, why was his body in your car?" Jared met me at the old train bridge near the edge of town, where no one went unless they were drunk or trying to disappear. He didn't say anything right away, just leaned on the railing, hood up, hands shoved deep in his jacket pockets. I stood a few feet away, arms crossed, the notebook pressed against my side like it might shield me. "Strangled," I said quietly. "That's not an accident." He nodded, eyes on the river. "Ben never said anything about Theo," I added. "Not once." "That doesn't surprise me," Jared said. "They weren't close. But Sasha knew him. They were in the same study group." "So why was he in the car?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out," he said. "I didn't even know he was dead until you texted me." "But you read the report." He shook his head. "They didn't release that part, not publicly. It was cleaned up, listed as multiple injuries consistent with impact." "Then how did you—" "I work in the registrar's office now," Jared said. "I still have access to certain things. And one of my friends, Ryan, interned at the coroner's office. He overheard them talking about it. Said something about ligature marks, defensive wounds. Theo fought back." "But the crash?" "They said no foul play, no sign of struggle." "Because it wasn't in their car," Jared said. "It was in yours." I took a step back. The sky above the bridge was turning gray-blue. A thin wind rolled off the river. It didn't feel cold. It felt sharp, like it could cut. "You think I killed him?" "No," Jared said. "But someone made sure his body ended up in the back seat with you. And I think they counted on you not remembering." We stood in silence for a while. "The dreams," I said, "they're getting worse." "You mean the ones where you're not yourself?" I turned to look at him. "How do you know that?" "Because I've had them too." I stared. "You're lying." "I thought I was losing my mind," he said. "Started the week after the funerals. I'd close my eyes and I'd see Sasha, but not like she was. She was bleeding, wet, looking right at me, like she knew I could see her." Why didn't you tell me? Because they weren't my memories, Lucy. They were yours. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded page, torn from a notebook. He handed it to me. It was my handwriting. I watched him die and said nothing. I watched him die. I watched him die. Over and over. The same sentence. Where did you get this? It showed up in my mailbox, he said, 2 nights ago. I looked back at the river, heart pounding. Someone is using us, I whispered, using what we feel. Or someone never left, Jared said. That night, I went home and locked every window. I slept with the notebook under my pillow, and in my dream, I was in the back seat again. Only this time, I wasn't driving. I wasn't watching. I was trapped. Blood on the window. Theo's breath fogging the glass. His voice in my ear. If you won't remember, I will. And then I saw my own face in the rearview mirror. But the eyes weren't mine anymore. I didn't remember recording anything. That's why it shook me so badly. The next morning, after the dream, the worst one yet, I found a new audio file saved in my voice memos. I never used that app. I hadn't even opened it since the accident. And yet, there it was, untitled, created at 2:17 a.m. I sat on my bed, phone in my hand, heart hammering. There was no mistaking the voice on the recording. It was mine. I pressed play. The audio was muffled, like I'd been speaking through fabric, but my voice was unmistakable, panicked, tense, whispering like I thought someone was listening. He didn't scream. He just stopped moving. A pause, breathing. I thought it was a dream, but I woke up with blood on my wrists. Another breath, then quieter. I wasn't supposed to be in the car. Static cracked across the last few seconds, then the sound of something being dragged, or maybe pulled. The file ended. I stared at the phone, shaking. I checked the app's metadata. No external device, no saved location. Created from this phone, from this house, from me. I called Jared. You need to come over. He didn't ask questions. He arrived 20 minutes later, looking worse than I felt, eyes bloodshot, jaw clenched like he hadn't slept in days. I played him the recording. He didn't speak until it was over. Then, you think you're dreaming that? I don't know what I'm doing. Lucy, you need to listen to me. He sat on the edge of the couch, elbows on his knees. I found something else, from Theo. What? It wasn't in the police report. Ryan dug it up for me last night. He pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket, another coroner's scan. Theo had marks on his temples, like from electrodes. Someone hooked him up to something. You mean, like, for therapy? No, more like an experiment. They didn't list it officially, just unexplained surface burns. But there's more. He tapped the corner of the report. He had serotonin reuptake spikes in his blood, like he'd been forced into REM, chemically. My stomach dropped. You're saying someone was controlling his dreams? I'm saying someone was studying them. I looked down at my notebook. The page had filled again while we talked. What you see when you sleep, it's not yours alone. That night, I made a decision. If I couldn't trust my memory, I'd leave myself evidence. I set up a camera, pointed it at my bed, put my phone on the nightstand, left the notebook closed and blank on the floor. Then I lay down and waited. I dreamed again. But this time, it wasn't the car. It was a room. White walls, a hospital bed, a tray of equipment, monitors that weren't on, and a mirror. In the mirror was me, but behind me, standing just over my shoulder, was Theo. Not dead, not bleeding, smiling. He leaned toward my reflection and whispered, "You don't know where it ends because you never knew where it started." I woke up, gasping. The camera was blinking red. Recording stopped. I opened the file. The video showed me sleeping, still. Then, at 2:17 a.m., I sat up, eyes open, mouth moving, no sound. But my notebook flipped open on its own, and a page turned. The video didn't lie. I watched myself rise at exactly 2:17 a.m., body rigid, eyes wide open, mouth moving in silence, like I was having a conversation with something that wasn't there. And as I mouthed words I couldn't hear, the notebook flipped open on its own. There was no breeze, no movement in the room, just the soft rustle of paper obeying something unseen. The next morning, I found one sentence written on the page. She never asked who was behind the mirror. I called Jared and told him everything. "I need to go back," I said. "Back where?" "To where the crash happened. Lucy, someone put us there, Jared, and they're still watching." He hesitated. Then, "Okay, I'll drive." The stretch of road was still unmarked. No memorials, no skid lines. As if the rain had wiped away the evidence, or someone had. We parked on the shoulder. The trees looked taller than they had in my dreams. Or maybe I was just smaller now. I walked to the edge of the forest and paused. There, just beyond the first row of trees, a small concrete building, half buried in moss and vines. It hadn't been in the crash photos. It wasn't on any map, but I'd seen it in the dreams. "Do you see that?" I asked Jared. "Yeah," he said, quietly. "I do." We moved fast, hearts pounding. The door wasn't locked. Inside, cold, still air. No power. Rows of empty chairs facing a single bed with straps. A monitor, long unplugged. Beside it, a corkboard. On it, pinned like a forgotten note. Subject 4, failed dissociation. Name, Lucy Carter. Dosage, adjusted. Memory, unpredictable. Suggest suppression protocol. I stumbled back. Jared caught me. "Theo was subject 3, I whispered. "They were testing us." "For what?" "Dream control," I said. "They were using our sleep." We searched the room for an hour, found 3 tapes. Only one still played. Theo, strapped to the bed, eyes darting, sensors on his temples. "She's watching again," he whispered. "She's always watching, even when I don't." He looked at the camera, straight through it, and mouthed my name. Then, static. We burned the tapes, took photos, files, evidence. That night, I didn't dream. I slept a full night for the first time in months. A week later, Jared got a job in another city. We promised to stay in touch. I think we meant it. I stayed, not because I wanted to, but because I had to be sure. The notebook hasn't written anything since. The camera hasn't caught me moving. But I still wake up every night at 2:17 a.m. on the dot. Eyes open, breath held, and I listen. For her voice, for mine, for the memory that still doesn't feel like it belongs to me. Because even if I wasn't the killer, even if someone else pulled the strings, I was the one who stayed silent when the truth came knocking. And that might be worse.